Hey guys, let me know you can hear me. It's good to see you. All right, give me the quick up. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Come on. Come on, kids. Thank you, Michelle. You rock. Okay. Let's see. We've got Big in the house. Hey, I haven't seen you here live, have I? I know I see you elsewhere, and you're such a smiling face. I'm trying to look at my cord here. Kevin Johnson's in the house. Dimple, La Lulu, who did me a great favor this morning. Thank you. that was great, and I got it fixed. I mean, I pulled it down and got it fixed. Michelle M, good to see you. I think we handled what we talked about last week, Michelle. But I will double check when I'm done. Let's see. Randy's in the house. Okay. So, hope you all have a great week. I do have Tasha here, as you can see. I almost, she's so good here all the time. And then right before we started, she started picking at I have a big screen over here. I have another one over there. And then I have this one here. And she starts doing what birds do. My little birds would do it if they were sitting on the top of my screen. They start taking it apart. And I was like, that's not happening. So I tried to move everything a little bit. And I don't have a huge amount of space. I'm on a Vari desk, so I can go up and down when I need. And but it's not, if I had the bigger one, might have to be my next investment. I have the smaller ones. I have multiples of them. But when you have multiple screens, you're really kind of squished in. Anyhow, yeah, right? So maybe now that we're talking, he's not going to be so bored and try to pick at my screen. With that big beak, you could do a lot of damage. That's like, don't be getting too close to me. All right. Real quick, guys, just to go over some upcoming 12 noon daily videos real fast here. What do we got? There was a question about whether I should send photos to the SSA or the adjudicator or videos of things that I think are pertinent, such as my condition, appearance of a body part, or even my unkempt home because I can no longer care for it, things of that nature. And we go into my opinion on whether you should do that. The Friday Fraud Law Review coming up is about a Missouri man who played disabled for decades while running a profitable business, and he finally got nailed. And it was through CDR because he was lying about doing zero work, not being able to walk, and all this other business. And here he is running this business that was put into his girlfriend's name. Just shady, right? Another video coming out is about federal quality review, positive sign, negative sign. We have an upcoming collaboration share between me and my friend and colleague, Jonathan Ginsburg. And that is just a little ditty about navigating a CDR when you've got a really important appointment, but it's not for like a month away. So we go into that a little bit. That was from a few weeks ago, I think, when I was in there. So I just pulled that piece. We have something coming about. Oh yeah, I shared a in the fields glitch that I had experienced very recently. Where one passes, gets the letter saying they passed the medical review, bingo, bingo, proved you're disabled. Now we're doing the non-medical review. Okay, that's fine. And then you don't hear from them for 2 months. And what happened there and what I thought was a little underhanded, maybe by a lazy worker, not sure. And then last one I see on my list here is a share about hypotheticals in the ALJ hearing, and it was a question and a response, and a little share on that and some more information about ALJ hearings that's tagged onto it. All right, let's get back here. So that's just upcoming, guys. I don't know which days they're coming out, but they're probably the next ones, barring anything getting pushed in front of them. What else? What else? Okay. So let's just get started. I hope you guys are having a great week. It's been a very weird, weird week. I had to play a little detective yesterday and do a little bit of the stakeout and a little bit of patrol for someone who was kind of missing in action, and the phone was broken. And it wasn't somebody in my family, but it was a friend of mine. So that is still playing itself out. But suffice it to say, we can all be, and you all know this, we can all be befallen by unexpected medical events that just take us out, hopefully temporarily. But I don't know, it's very I don't know, frightening, I suppose. But, all right, let's get to it, guys. And let me just scooch down here and make sure everybody's doing good. Okay. So Big, who I'm so glad you're here, says, hi, Stephanie. I finally have an SSDI question that I hope you can help me with. This year was my CDR year. Okay. And remember, I don't remember the details of your situation, right, Big? I got a CDR update report from SSA. Okay. I filled it out. And yesterday I got one. Oh, that's the first of three. I got one. I guess, okay, so to review your case, but I don't see any information about how long it will be. That's because they don't have a time frame on it, because depending on what comes up in the review, they may need to order records. When will those records come in from the medical doctors, all that kind of stuff. So it's not always something they can pinpoint. I think they aim to do it within a few months, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, unfortunately. Does this mean it's still 3 years, or should I call the SSA? Thanks a million. Wait a minute. Did they say, Big, that you got a letter saying they're not going to review your case after you were asked to update? Did you update in a short form and give it to them, and they said we're passing you on? That's kind of like what it sounds like you're saying. I don't know if you're on a 3-year diary. I think it's going to be at least, probably they'll push it off another 3 years. Now, it could be your diary changes. If you're aging, I don't know if you've changed in age, it could actually become a 5 to 7. It really can be in your favor, I suppose. Kevin Johnson in the house says hello from Morristown, Tennessee. Hey, Kevin, I was born in Morristown too, but it was Morristown, New Jersey. Dimple, hi, Dimple. And hello, Ohio. Okay, La Lulu says, hello from the Great Lakes Superior, and joy to all joining. And she's pointing out that live chat disappears for replay. That's probably true. I don't know how I would change something like that. This, by the way, on the replay, can you still see this stuff? What you guys said here? I know the replay is actually a video of the whole thing. It's not, there is the direct replay, but I don't call it replay. It's the live that just stays up now. I'm keeping them up because they are slightly different from the replay. So I figured, all right, until I'm told otherwise, I can leave it up because all these little pieces are cut out of it. All the scrolling silences and all that. Yeah. And so I leave them both up. So the one has them. And the other one that's a video, yeah, that might not, right? Yeah, that's a shame. I wouldn't know how to do that. I don't even know if it's possible because it's no longer actually, it's just a video copy of it. That's all it is. Okay, that's our SSD evaluation and our attorney consultation. And here I gotta, my nose, oops. Disappeared there for a second. Okay. Michelle, good to see you. And thank you for telling me that you heard me. Lalulu, the same. Dimple. Okay, thank you all. Hi, Bradley, good to see you. Thanks for the confirm. Randy says, I recently finished physical therapy. Does it matter to SSA if it was my primary care physician or my pain manager doctor who ordered it? I don't think so. Either one can do it. Oh my gosh, am I doing that? Or are you doing that? The pain management is considered more of a specialist. So in a sense, if we're going to nitpick, I suppose that might be slightly better, but I don't think so necessarily. Maybe your pain management doctor hopefully gets those records. But see, the thing I love about physical therapy records is the therapists, a lot of the time, I mean, I find them to be really good at this. And there are exceptions. There are some, just like any profession, there's some weaker links in there. But a lot of times the therapists, they record so many things because it is part of their report, like your pain levels after you do something, how you did after the last session, how you're doing at the end of this session. Were you exhibiting signs of pain? Were you unable to complete something because of pain? Sometimes they'll talk about that someone still needs assistance with strengthening this part because they're unstable on their feet or whatever. They have all these things in there. And what I love about it is, even though they're not the MD, they do specialize in physical therapy, of course. And you get like 12 or 24 visits where they have the opportunity to keep describing on this, it's not a year-long basis usually, although I have seen that. But on a continuous, it's not a snapshot of one day when you're in pain. It's the ongoing nature. And so it's 12 or 24 visits over a month or two or more. And that would take you years to get from your specialist. That many visits and that many comments. So in that way, it's to me, a great form of evidence. It's not conclusive. Nothing is. It's always the whole conglomeration of everything we can do to add to that, as they say, the crumbs of the cake to make the cake. But if it was your primary, I wouldn't be concerned, Randy. I think it's good that just getting the PT is really, really super smart of you. Oh, Big says it's his first time being at Livestream. Oh, that's really cool. Good to see you. We have fun in here. We have a super, super nice crowd. Big, so. And everybody really supports everybody else, and people report back when they prevail, and they still come back sometimes, and then when they don't prevail, they also get in there and sometimes ask questions. Yeah, Justin Zane says, is that Tasha? That is Tasha. Yeah, she almost had to go for a timeout, which was she's never had to even remotely be considered for a timeout since I got her, which is not that long ago, just a few weeks. She has her big appointment tomorrow. I don't know if you guys can see it from here, but her toenails like this. And that is how we got her. And we immediately made this appointment, but it was a few weeks out. So, and it's not every vet. We have a lot of vets around here, but most of them don't do clipping of nails. So once we get her copacetic baseline back to good, I think it'll be just fine. And maybe I'll be able to do them myself. We'll see. I might choose not to if it doesn't have to be done that often. Maybe let someone else be the bad guy. Yeah, Justin, she is adorable. She's super sweet. What you doing? I gave her some of I had like a nutty protein granola bar, and I shared it with her, and I saved a little piece for later. It's got a bit of sugar in it, but birds do like sugar, and I know that sounds nuts, but they make things with extra sugar to make it taste good for them to be more apt to eat them. And they have the regular food, of course, too. Every morning, her prior owner of many, many years, because she's 31 years old, would give her a yogurt covered raisin, like you can just get in the supermarket. So we have a couple of those boxes, and every morning, that's her little treat, right? She's like, I'm trying to sleep. Be quiet. Yeah, Valerie. Hi, Valerie. Good to see you. Yes, she is amazing. Paper Roses is in the house. I don't think we've met, have we? Thank you for being here. Valerie says, is there a reason why Medicare raises always takes away our Social Security raises to make it to where we never get ahead? Interesting. It might be helpful to know, not that this cures that situation. And you're right. You're still basically losing money as inflation is still going to take hold, right? Even though COLA was there for inflation, but COLA then covered the increase in Medicare, right? But there is but for this other rule, I think it's called like hold harmless or harmless something. And I was just conversing about this the other day. If you are collecting Social Security while you're on Medicare, as opposed to being 65, not collecting Social Security because you're working, wait until 70, whatever. If you are collecting Social Security and you're on Medicare, and some years we didn't have a COLA. I want to say 2010, 2011, when we had a pretty stagnant, nasty economy. And I think again in was it 15 or 16? One of those or both. No COLA. And given that Medicare premiums, like all healthcare, has to always go up, just the way our horrible system is designed. If the actual increase was put upon Social Security beneficiaries, they would have gone, if there was a zero COLA, now they're paying all this, another take home after paying for their own health insurance through Medicare would be much lower. But this hold harmless rule, and again, that's not the official name, says the amount, no matter what the premium for Medicare overall is, the amount that the beneficiaries have to pay as their contribution to the premium, because obviously $180 a month does not cover a premium. So it's being covered through elsewhere, the Medicare fund and all that. And if they didn't have that, you would be seriously damaged even with a small COLA, right? Because usually Medicare maybe goes up more than the COLA. So whatever the Medicare is doing, they can never make it more than what your COLA gives you as per what you pay. If you are not collecting Social Security, but you have Medicare, you get the whole premium. That would be adjusted accordingly. But this hold harmless. And I think, I don't know how that works out in the wash in the end, like over the years. Is the system just more depleted? Or do the years when we do have the stagflation, and there's nothing going up? I don't know. Does anything balance it out naturally? Or is it just that, you just need to keep more money in the fund and more taxes? I don't know the answer, but I know that at least there's that protection, Valerie. But as you say, that still means there is no, in a sense, if our COLA is eaten up by the premium increase, and the premium increase can go up to the COLA for us. It can't go further. But that means we have no COLA to apply to our other costs of living. It is an issue because that means we're in a world where there's almost always going to be at least a healthy inflation, hopefully, the 2% or whatever, or 1.5% or whatever. We're always going to be walking away with less and less and less. So, and there's such an acknowledgement about what our COLA, the basket of goods upon which the index that we use relies on, doesn't really include a lot of the expenses that apply in the everyday world. And that's why I think sometimes the COLA doesn't seem to make much sense. I mean, even when we got up to 8%, 9% a few years ago, because inflation was like 50%, not officially, but we all saw it. I mean, our food bills doubled, right? Or went up 50%, not doubled. All right. Paper Roses says, what can be done with troublemakers making false reports on people and Social Security listening to hearsay, causing stress, getting CDR because they make false reports? Well, I don't know because I don't do this area of law, right? But I'm always interested in all the other areas. And I used to do general practice long before I did Social Security disability. So maybe like 25, 30 years ago. If someone does a false report about you, shouldn't you be going to the police? I would be reporting it, first of all, to the OIG of SSA. And these are just ideas. And it's not for everybody. But if someone is making false federal reports. It's a crime. So why can't you go to the police? Will they do anything? Not so sure. You know, they have resource limitations and all that. And it's kind of something that's maybe out of the realm, but they can take a report. But you'd also do a report to the OIG, Office of Inspector General of the SSA. You could contact perhaps, and I'm not sure, maybe a congressperson and say, what can be done about this? It's true of anything, though. It's not just SSA. Think about it. You have people who make false reports about a parent down the street because they don't like them because they just got a BMW and they're jealous or something. And they do a report that they saw their parent abusing their child. And now DIFUS or whatever in your state it's called comes in and investigates that parent. And, you know, because they have to, under law, they have to investigate all of these allegations. And it's frustrating when they're anonymous allegations. I do think anonymous allegations don't carry the same weight as someone who's ready to put their name on it. But, you know, that has caused more havoc, I would say, than false reports to SSA that you are clearly able to disprove because they don't apply. It is very hard when it happens to a family and, you know, the child is put in foster care until they get through the investigation. You know, depending on how rogue or aggressive the Department of Children is on that, is what might happen. You know, I've seen families really ripped apart. And then, you know, the family that, let's say it's not a grudge because the guy's got a nicer car than you do, or, you know, or the reporter does, but it's for some other reason. Maybe they just don't get along. Maybe they, you know, and if, you know, they do that report and now someone needs to hire a lawyer, a family law lawyer, a custody lawyer, you know, that will fight this fraudulent allegation and get DIFUS off the back. There was a concern not too many years ago, but it was something that worried me too, that, you know, it can be ripe for abuse within the system, such as a, you know, less than ethical, you know, Department of Children worker, kind of like orchestrating perhaps, you know, the value of a baby being taken from a home so someone else can have that baby, whether it be in foster care or wants to adopt or whatever, is very high. And it's criminal, obviously, but sometimes people don't care about, you know, the family. It's, hey, that's a valuable commodity there, and we can get some money for that little itty bitty, you know, on the cup. So many things, you know, in this world with false reporting, you know, and I think false reporting is generally done for illicit reasons, even if it's just an individual getting a grudge back. So I know it's got to be hugely, hugely stressful, but it does happen everywhere. And I really think people need to hold those that do it accountable. So, you know, as long as you know that what they're saying is not true, you know, it's always good to have your paper trail behind you. I hate, you know, we don't want to be all paranoid, but if you think you have, you know, grudge holders or somebody that's looking to cause trouble and is willing to fabricate for it, you've got a lot of mentally ill people out there that will also do very mean things because they just assume they can get away with it because of that, you know. So, you know, you just have to do the best you can. I bet you they don't give us statistics on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if SSA weeds out a ton of those and people don't even know that they were reported against. I think they do a little bit of, they don't have the resources to go, you know, to go act like everyone's serious. So they probably really, really do a little bit of vetting before they put any resources into it because they just don't have that many people, you know. You know, that's just not part of the availability. As you know, we know with everything in government agencies, you know, trim is better, but you know, so I don't think that they act on all of them, but they are going to have to act on some, particularly if there's some corroborating evidence, even if it's circumstantial. So it doesn't mean it's true, but that person was smart enough to try to throw it from 2 angles so it looked like there was some support. That probably doesn't make you feel any better, right, Paper? I'm sorry. That's just my off-the-cuff response, though, because it is what it is. You've got unethical people out there that will do anything to win, their perception of winning. Justin Zane says, how often is a CDR conducted? That will depend on your diary date, which depends on the nature of your impairment, your vocational profile, which largely has to do with age. They can be a year. I'm trying to think if they can even go less than a year, but let's just say a year, 18 months we've seen, 2 years we've seen, and then it's 3 years, and then it's I guess like 3 to 5 or 5 to 7. I don't know if there's a 3 to 5 in there. I might be having a brain fart, but 5 to 7 is the longest duration. And those are the ones it's called MINE, medical improvement not expected. So they have to do a little gentle touch up. And I'm thinking maybe that's what they did with the big, I'm not sure. And then they say, they'll say like, well, we're not going to review at this time because they saw everything was as they expected. You're still treating because that was how serious it was. And they don't really need to get in the nitty gritty because they know the nature of that impairment, whether it's the kind that doesn't generally improve. Now, of course, let's say you have one of those impairments, but then you start working part-time under SGA. That is a sign that there may have been improvement that might then cause the CDR, or they'll ask about the work and then they'll decide if they need a full CDR. So that's not a bad thing to be working under SGA with that. You just have to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row and do it with care. I would highly suggest anyone who does it probably gets a consult one way or another, free or unfree, wherever they can grab a free. But you might just want to cover your bases and make sure you know what you're doing and what you need to always keep an eye on and keep track of and document. Ray Jean Lane. I don't think we've met, Ray Jean. Nice to see you. My mom just got suspended for winning money. They're stopping her check for 6 months. Okay, that suggests to me, Ray Jean, that your mom is on SSI, which is the welfare benefit from the federal government. And that is only payable when we have no other money. So if we win a lottery, inherit money, someone gives us a big amount of money, gamble and win money, the fact that we no longer have the financial need we had before means we're not due those checks because each month we have to be and have the threshold of resources and income low enough to be defined as needing that money from the taxpayers that month. When your mother, they'll stop it for more than 6 months if she still has the money, by the way. So she either spends it down, and she could, it doesn't have to be for 6 months. And I'm just going to think this through a second. Let's say she won, let's say it was $6,000, and that's why the presumption is 6 months, because the 1,000 that she would have been getting for SSA, 6 of those thousands that she just got are going to be used to pay what SSI near 1,000 would have paid. That doesn't have to be the case. If she takes that, let's say she has that 6,000 and she has a mortgage, and she pays the winnings to reduce to go all to her mortgage, benefits her in the long run. Her mortgage is going to be paid up sooner. Now she no longer has that money as a resource. It would stop the month it was received because that was income that was too much. But if the following month she doesn't have that money on the first of the next month, because she sent it to the mortgage company, she no longer has a resource, and she should be getting her SSI, I believe. So look into that if that's a possibility. Sometimes, because her own home is an uncounted resource if she's living in it. The same would be true if she needed to put it into her roof. The money is spent. It's a spend down. And it didn't result in a spend down of something that she could, that is an accountable resource. She didn't go buy a second car, but she could have bought a first car, or she could have gotten a new transmission if she needed one. You see what I'm saying? You can spend it how you wish. You just want to be careful. A, you want to prove that you spent it. And B, why spend it on something that's not going to benefit you in the future when you can spend it on something that will pay you some sort of spades going on. I love the mortgage one. I really do. And if it was a much higher amount, and you, let's say it was $100,000 winnings, I would like to think, yeah, I would like to think that one would maybe definitely pay off the mortgage. If they're renting, maybe go put down or buy a small, tiny little place that's affordable on SSI. So maybe the whole mortgage is paid off because you don't even need a mortgage. I mean, imagine having your SSI and not having to pay it towards rent. Amazing, right? Oh, Big says I have question number 2. Hold on, Big. Let me see. I don't see it. Or did you do that after? I don't see it, Big. Was that something? Was that part of the one that I know I'm lagging you guys, right? Because it is now 1:30, and you said that at 1:08. Yeah, probably. So Big is a tender 51 and a half years old. At least you have the grids on your side. So you did pass over from the. So when you prevailed, Big, you were less than 50, and now you're over 50. That's helpful. Valerie says, also, if Social Security will know that a person will get approved eventually through an ALJ hearing, why do they put you through grief to get benefits? Well, first of all, they don't know, until they do, in which case then they award. If the evidence is there now, let's say they know you're not terminal now, but you might be a year from now, and they can't award you what is not there. They just can't. I mean, if you think about it, right? So if it is on the fence, I think they push it up. They deny it. And then of course it's ones where the other thing will, like, let's say the person is 49 and they're found to be able to do sedentary work. They're not disabled under the law at that time. No adjudicator has the power to change that law, right, Valerie? So yes, it's true that if they appeal, by the time they get to an ALJ, they will now be 50. And if the ALJ agrees that he's limited to sedentary and not to light, then the ALJ is going to award him on that same evidence. But the law that applies to this fellow has changed. And the adjudicator down below cannot go pretend that a 49-year-old is 50 or above. Right? Wouldn't that be illegal? Wouldn't that be something very wrong? Eddie Garcia's in the house. I might be seeing my Garcia friends this weekend, Eddie. And I told you his name is Eddie Garcia. How funny is that? Okay. Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. I am having a great day now that I'm here, for sure. After I leave here, I think I have to go do some investigating again, but only for like an hour, hopefully. Justin Zane is from the Caribbean. Hey, Justin, do you say Caribbean or do you say Caribbean? I know I say Caribbean, but I've heard people say the other. What do you guys all say? Caribbean or Caribbean? Talyum is here. Morning, everybody. Good to see you again. Paper Rose is here again. She says, I have a permanent condition, genetic, that doesn't get better. It's progressive and painful. Okay, yeah. And so it depends on whether it's disabling from all jobs or not, depending on your age and all that. So have you already prevailed? Are you already getting benefits? I think you were the one asking about false reports and stuff like that by grudge holding crazy people, or just plain old mean people, right? I don't want to give them the benefit of the excuse of mental illness if what they really are is just outright mean, evil people. Okay. Eddie says, I have a question about my elderly father's Social Security disability, which is around $1,400 monthly. Can he receive more? It seems like what he's getting is barely enough to cover his monthly expenses. He's getting exactly what he paid for, Eddie. And you said he's disability, so I guess he's under 67. So you can't get if you bought, this is insurance. He bought this insurance policy. He paid the premiums in X amount that would result in him getting $1,400 a month. He can't just say, but I need more to live because I have a higher standard of living than that. You know, that was what he was supposed to be saving up as he was working before he became disabled. Maybe buying a disability policy, maybe buying an annuity, whatever. I know. None of us can afford it. We're trying to make our ends meet as it is, right? I get it. But that is kind of the way that is. Let's see. It is not based on your needs. It is an insurance contract like any other. You paid for X amount, you get X amount. Justin says, Stephanie makes it easy for the replay. She lists the question right on the lower banner of her screen. Yeah, I think this same banner that's right here, right, Justin? I try to do that anyway. I think it always happens. But you know, some of the personal things that some people talk about, like there's a lot of interaction in the live stream with you know, people who have become friendly with one another. You know, someone asks a question, someone else, you know, gives them what they know, and a lot of things of that nature. And those are the things that might not show up, because I usually just leave the private conversations to let them enjoy themselves as we continue on with the actual questions of substance that are being asked of me. So, Michael Smith, how are you? Indiana. Oh, Indiana's in the house. I filed in March, had both CEs completed in August. Received and returned job history form. Do you think a decision is near? We'd like to think so, since you already had your CEs. CEs in August. They're really slow on that job history form. Usually that comes out the gate. As soon as the adjudicator gets, you know, your case, really. I see the function report pop out and the work history report. I suppose, you know, they could have had a glitch or something. Someone dropped a ball, it happens. I had one of those recently. I've gotten cases where I'm just starting on the case on recon when someone came to me after they were denied an initial, and I'll sometimes see that there was never once I can get into the file, electronic file, I can see if they ever asked for the original work report, original function report, and because of I am who I am, we usually are going to do a work history report even if one was already submitted. Because usually the person did not answer all the questions as accurately as they didn't realize they should have. And so we go through and we do it all again and we submit it again. So this is amended because he didn't understand those questions and things were left out that are really important and relevant. Justin says, when you visit a doctor, can you ask for your records? Sure can. Yep. And they'll have you sign like a HIPAA form so they can see YA, which is understandable and appropriate, and you can get them that way for sure. They might say, Justin, let me just go back, Bradley, sorry. They might say, oh, you have to call this number, or here's the form, you fill it out and then you fax it over to this other office. Like they might have a big, if they're particularly in a big network or something, they might have a total. So they might say that, but that's where you can find out. My eyes feel blind. Bradley says, hello, scenic Vermont, very scenic now, amazing foliage. Oh, wow. Are you getting early foliage, Bradley? Because we're getting early kind of yellow. I suppose there's going to be some red in there, but we had a really dry, hot summer, so everything's happening a little sooner than usual. And I'm in the Poconos, so I'm south of you quite a bit. Tayyum says, share about SSA website. Oh, so he's sharing something about the SSA website, I think. I'm on step 3, and website said examiner was assigned 9/11, but it's not accurate. DDS rep said it's in queue for assignment, so it'll be a few more weeks. Isn't that funny? Yeah, that seems like a conflict. But what DDS rep did you talk to? How did you get a hold of one if you don't have one? Just curious. So I'm curious about that, Tayyum. Like normally it's just not even with anybody if it's in queue. It's just sitting in the big bucket waiting its turn to get plucked out and given to an adjudicator. So if you want to clarify that, and then I'll probably say like, but what are you clarifying now? Oh, Valerie says she loves my supervisor or sidekick. Now the eye that I can see in the screen that you guys can find, it looked like she was closing it. Sometimes she'll have one eye closed and she'll be like looking at the other one. It's almost like she's half asleep. Like I can see it kind of closed. I think that's what you guys are seeing. Oh, now she popped it open. But the one on that's eyeballing me is wide open. What are you doing? Go to sleep. Yeah. It's funny. Oh gosh. John's travel adventure. My appeal went through federal quality review, and today on the SSA website, they said my appeal was approved. Wee-haw, John, yay. That's awesome. That's really, really great. That's wonderful. I did get a report from someone this week, not one of my clients, but one of you kind people who watched the 12 o'clocks, I think. Maybe that person's here. They had a federal quality review and it was denied. Now, that's might be the first I've heard of that. So I think that's rare, but it stands to reason that it can happen. And I'm very sorry for that person. Bradley says, is the SSA obligated to respond to CDR? They issue the CDR, so I don't know what you mean by respond. Like, you don't go and demand one. Hey, I want a CDR. I'm not sure what you're saying. And the time frame, there is no. I'm going to say there's no time frame. It's going to be like your initial or your recon, that kind of nebulous, it gets done when it gets done type of thing. Is COLA October 15th? I think you're asking, is COLA going to be announced October 15th? I believe it is in mid-October. I'm not sure what the date is. But yeah, that's probably about right. I did do an article for a newspaper that I had to submit last week that was, and I did it about COLA just because it was timely. And I think what we were seeing was 2.6 to 2.7%. If that gives you any heads up of what the financial gurus out in the world are saying. Anyway, Justin says, my daughter is at SSA. She told me that the only real way they investigate, so she works for the SSA, that's cool, a recipient, is if the troublemaker has the actual SSN of the SSD recipient in their report. Okay, I'm going to question that with all due respect, because most neighbors don't know their neighbor's Social Security number, and nor should they. So to have a Social Security number, by definition, for most people would mean that you have just stolen personally identifying information, and that's not going to happen, right? It's certainly not where they're going to call the SSA and say, hey, by the way, I have some personally, I stole this SSI, and they're doing this. It might be where someone is following the person to work, the person that supposedly doesn't work, and is seeing, and has staked them out. I mean, sometimes people are nosy. I honestly think if someone is working full time, I hope they get nailed, and I hope someone does stake them out. But yeah, I'm going to beg to differ on that, because it would make no sense, and they would never be able to accept reports, because nobody has other people's SS numbers except possibly spouses. Maybe someone in the house, like that would be if an immediate family member is going to report on their father, their mother, their brother. I think that's rare when people are living together and would have access to that information. So I don't know. And again, all due respect to her, she's probably not the one handling these reports. So I don't think that's accurate. I have nothing to give you, though, to say that I'm correct. It just doesn't make sense. That's all. But run with it if it feels good, guys. I don't really care. It is what it is, because all you people are doing the right thing, so it doesn't matter to me. Paper Rose says, police do nothing. The false reporter wife assaulted me, and she's long-term mental hospital, aggressive physical assault. Yeah, I didn't say they were going to cure it. They don't have that capacity. But did they take a report from you? I hope they took the report on the assault. And how do you know she's a false reporter? I'm just curious. By the way, has anybody ever heard of a civil lawsuit? Come on, we have a litigious society out there. There is such a thing, and I don't know why. If someone did that to me, if police won't write up the charges that are possibly able to be written up, and they should, false reporting to a government agency should be something that you could report. However, it might be that you have to report it federally because it's not necessarily a state thing, jurisdiction-wise. However, you can file your own lawsuit. You do not need to have a lawyer. Granted, you have to study up and put time in and effort like everybody else, but it's something you can do. You can even do it potentially, every jurisdiction is going to be different, in small claims court, where most people are self-representing, and they even give you forms for whatever kind of tort you're suing for. If people started doing that and making these people they either have to default, and then you have to prove your damages, which is generally monetary damages. If you lost your benefits due to a false report and you're in the battle to get them back, and you've been 6 months without, I would certainly put that in there. If you lost health insurance, I mean, it's hard to quantify some of these things, but if people start properly holding other people accountable, I know we just don't have time in our days, and we're disabled. It's even like crazier, right? You're less able to get out there and do that. A lot of stuff can be filed online, possibly. Just an idea. Small claims court. I'm not trying to create a more litigious society, but if you have been certainly false reported against, it's defamation, if nothing else. It is, I'm always thinking of all the different theories of the case that one could fabricate a complaint about in court that would have a state law that would support it. The defamation, of course, that exists in every state. And I'm also thinking potentially a contract interference. If you are on SSD, you're getting paid on the insurance contract of sorts with the federal government, and they just interfered with that improperly. You know what I'm saying? Improperly, because what they said was false, and for the purpose to interrupt that contract, that arrangement. So there's probably a ton of other ones. If I was retired and could do all sorts of fun things, these are things I would be like drafting up samples of, because I'm always like, why didn't they? I'll give you an example, guys. So we're going a little off tangent here. There was something on the news last night. This is horrible. Somewhere in the United States, a huge, heavy teenage football player, huge, a smaller football player, age 15, is lying on the ground on the field. The big arse goes out to him and does what they call a pancake. I never even heard the expression, but he just goes up and does almost like a belly flop on top of this kid. I don't know if I was seeing a repeat video or if he did it over and over again. It could just be that was the loop. You look at it, and I'm a parent, right? I have a 17-year-old and an 8-year-old. And most of you are parents, right? I'm sitting there going, and they're saying how the school is handling it very seriously internally. I'm like, oh, heck no. I would be so fast out of the police station, having files charges for assault and battery against this other teenager. And, those parents are going to start paying attention. They obviously didn't teach this kid any kind of civility. And I would be filing the kid, by the way, broke his spine in 2 places, fractured. I don't know if that means it's like something that's going to be paralyzing or anything. At first I had heard it was 2 ribs. I'd like to think they're not going to call 2 ribs a spinal thing, even though technically your ribs are connected to your spine. But so don't hold me to, which it doesn't even matter though, because the damage is the damage. And even if there was not that damage, let's say it was just a sore body, bruised up, I'd be taking it to task. I would not be leaving it with the school at all. I'd be screwing them right and left. I'd be suing the school. I'd be suing the kid. I'd be suing his parents. Whoever was supervising, sorry, coaches, you have liability insurance for that reason. All of this stuff would be at the end of my arrow. I would be civilly, I would be going to the police again, like I said, and I would be demanding that criminal charges be, or juveniles, whatever you do with the juvies that behave in an assaultive manner. You know, when a juvenile is not 18, but is engaging in an activity that would only be, that is an adult activity, and they commit, it's like an adult activity crime, they can be tried as an adult. And that's why sometimes major assaults by people under 18, they are tried as an adults. I'd be pushing for that. I am not kidding here. I would not be sitting around and just waiting for those that can do something but don't have enough resources to do it. I would be finding every avenue to go after this, because it's just, you know, otherwise the bullies just keep doing it anyway. So you got to use the law. The laws are there for us to use, and most people don't use them. You know, that's why we always have legislators making up new laws. And I'm like, if you just use the ones we have, you know, and enforce them, you know, we wouldn't need the legislators at all for the most part. And I'm sure we all agree on that. Okay. All right, back on. Valerie says, the last CDR I remember was 2021. I was supposed to have one in 2024. Okay, the last CDR, I was supposed to have one 20. So you think on a 3-year diary. I don't know if my payee ever got the form. Oh, you got a rep payee, ever got the form and sent it in without me knowing, or Social Security hasn't sent it. Well, maybe you're nervous to call though, right? Because it's CDR. Why don't you ask your payee? And do they have a copy of the file? I mean, if your payee is not being responsible with your paperwork, maybe you need a new payee. You know, they should really be organized. They're saying they're able to take care of, if they can't take care of paperwork, they shouldn't be handling your money probably, right? I don't know what you think, Valerie. I'm not trying to cause a rift there, but that's, you know, I would ask them. They should just be able to tell you. And if they say they don't know, I know it's nerve-wracking to call you, but you can call the SSA. And I don't think this is any kind of red flag, and just say, can you tell me when my next diary date is for CDR? That is a legitimate question. That doesn't trigger a CDR. You know, you just want to know, what is my next diary date? And that is totally fine. People do it all the time. All righty. Valerie says she always gets the short form. Okay, that's good. That means they're not really expecting improvement usually at that time frame anyway. And if you're over 50, that might be just because they don't expect it, and because of your age progression, now being over 50, even less so. Deb Lindley's in the house. Hi, Deb. Did we miss you last week? I think I messaged you in underneath one of your comments. Not sure. Okay. Oh, she's responding to Eddie. Sorry, I didn't mean to interfere, but I want to say hi, Deb. I saw your name. You're welcome, Big. Paper Roses. You got some great questions, Paper. I appreciate you being here, because questions are what we're here for. Paper Roses says, can you please explain ABLE accounts? Oh, this is going to be a weak spot for me there, Paper. So not much, but let's just see what your question is. Can you please explain ABLE accounts? New one coming up January 26th is 2026 is for people that onset of disability is 45, 47 years old. SS said that only good for Medicare, but I've read that can use other. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to answer those intricacies. I know the ABLE account used to be up to what, 26? And they are making it later. So, and that's kind of cool, right? You know, for ABLE accounts is usually guys for people on the welfare program, so that they can have a little bit of savings, more than, you know, what would normally be the resource limit of 2,000 or 3,000. So it's a positive thing, as long as it's not abused, of course. And I mean by the person owning it, in terms of, I'm a millionaire and I'm still going to collect welfare. Oh my gosh, AFVET. Oh wait, hold on. Justin says El Caribe. Am I saying that right? El Caribe. Oh man. Thank you. Super sticker. AFVET. Thank you for your contribution. That's pretty awesome. We were actually talking to the next person on the, you know, I'm just going to broadly speak it as the 1% list. See if that one would be viable. So we're taking someone on. I'm just not sure who yet. And that's assuming they don't already have somebody else, of course. because we always say, don't wait for us. Please don't wait. It'll be a long wait. Sunflower 9999 says, if you have, and it's good to see you again, Sunflower. If you have osteoarthritis as one of your conditions and had a hip replacement, but are experiencing issues with the implant loosening causing leg pain, can this still be considered for your, oh my gosh, for sure. I mean, I'm sorry that's happening, but the failure of the surgery is the important part for a claim. The fact that you had it meant you needed it, so you were disabled probably, right before then, which might not have even been a full 12 months of disability. But if you're having the pain now and it's limiting the walking and the sleeping and the sitting, and those are all those tasks, the walking and the sitting, that you need for work. So for sure, that would be super relevant. Get it in. You'd be following up with your hip dude. You might be going to another, maybe they're going to send you to physical therapy. I don't know if that would work, though. If something's loosening, I don't think they're going to be scheduling something for a revision, perhaps. What do you think? But you definitely want to get that in your claim, without a doubt. Anything that goes on, even the continuation of what pain you had, for all other impairments for other people, is supposed to be continuously sent into your adjudicator. You can't just be like, well, this is what it was when I applied and I'm stuck with it. Oh, heck no. Not so, guys. Deb Lindley says to AF Vet, thank you for supporting Steph's channel. I appreciate. And I appreciate you too, Deb. Tayyum says, there is a pre-development unit, okay, who called me to review my application. Is this SSI? And she mailed me the function report. Oh, pre-development unit. Interesting. By the time the examiner is, I know what you're talking about. I think we just talked about this in a video, because I was speaking with somebody was the person on the other end of the phone of the number with regard to certain reports that were demanded. But we didn't have the adjudicator's name because sometimes those letters come out and it just says the DDS or something, and it doesn't say who. And we had a nice conversation. Such a nice young man. And he clarified for me that he was the developer and then orders the records and gets everything so that the adjudicator is not multitasking, ordering records, and then actually adjudicating this case's records over here while he's ordering these other. So it's kind of like a good little separation of duties to be a little bit more focused and getting the adjudication done that needs to get done. If these people are really good at ordering records, let that be their forte, and let the guy that knows how to match the law with this and that, let him do his thing. And I think that's great. And he said that it was implemented temporarily. I don't know what state you're in. I think the state I was talking to might have been Georgia. But I thought it was great. And he said, they've done, he goes, I don't know if this is going to be more than temporary, but I've seen them have temporary things that become permanent because they work so well. And he was referring to, he had been at the OHO and they had done something like that, and they kept it as permanent because it worked so well. Ooh, Bradley says, oh, Bradley, I got to go see what you're referring to. Let me just see if I can find. I don't know what I asked about early, Bradley. I'm sorry. Oops. Sunflower says, they said in my denial my hip arthritis had been treated with the replacement. Well, that's true. It was treated with the replacement, and the treatment has now failed. So you have new information, right? So that's where you put in the appeal. It says, has anything changed? Any new conditions, any change to your activities? Yeah. And now you have failed, whatever you're going to call it, failed hip syndrome or something, whatever it's called. And you're going to add that as potentially a new condition. I would smack it everywhere I could. And you have to then go forward and keep treating to improve that, because you're going to want those records to continue being born to show that there continues to be this problem and they're figuring out what to do about it and blah, blah, blah. And, they denied you. It was probably that when we have a hip surgery, we are disabled for the immediate period, at least the day of surgery and after. But it can be as limited as just a few months, not even. And then we're on our feet and we could do a sedentary job. Here, you could, potentially show, no, I can't because I never got past the 2 months. The healing never occurred that is supposed to result after 2 months, right? So, the need to rehabilitate it more, get another surgery, whatever it's going to take, because you were still stuck in that mode of bad. And you would argue, I can't sit long enough to do a sit-down job. I can't stand long enough to do a light job. And I can't alternate the two to do an alternating job for 8 hours. I can alternate, but I can't do it for an 8-hour day. My hip will be on fire, and maybe other body parts too. Don't forget your other body parts, that sunflower. Usually if we have arthritis in our hip, we got other places too. Add those and get them worked up, in my opinion, generally speaking, because it could be, wrists or shoulders, and you want that in there because that also takes out light jobs if the shoe fits. And some sedentary jobs. Alrighty. Paper Roses says, if you file a short CDR online, you mean if you respond to a short form, a CDR form that is the short form that the SSA sent to you, and you are submitting it online, is the response fast or result? Answer, I don't know. They haven't reported on the speed. But I suppose you mean rather than mailing it in? I'd say, yeah. I think also it's nice because you probably get a online SSA provided receipt that says you sent it in. And is it something that you're going to be able to also see in your SSA account that you submitted it? Take some screenshots. Always get your paper trail and put them in your file. I think it's when they give you automated ways of submitting like that, it's for expediency usually, and to help us, meaning claimants. And it also helps me as a representative because the days of mailing stuff, that was costly to my people because they paid for the mailings. And now they don't have any of those expenses. I don't even largely, I think I took it out of my intake papers this year. They, an out-of-pocket expense page where, listen, you're going to want to send in a little money for this, and this, because these things got to go out UPS. Don't need it anymore because we have all these free to you. We pay for the faxes, but I pay in a broader way. Sometimes I go over the limit, blah, blah, but that's just, to me, part of the expense when it's like that, as opposed to where each person can be, paying for their own. So that's not something that happens anymore. And now with all of the ways that we order medical records, that was really the big one, that, medical records were costing hundreds of dollars, and we're not going to be able to foot it. So now we use the federal high-tech HIPAA form, which means they can't charge that. At most, it's going to be like $10. And a lot of times they don't charge at all now, maybe because they can't profit anymore. So some of these really profiting records copying entities, perhaps they went out of business. Perhaps they just get paid by the doctor's office instead of by the patient for a copy of his own records. I always thought it was inappropriate anyway to charge a patient for something that he should have a right to the copy of, even though technically they say the records are owned by the doctor. It makes no sense to me. Okay. National SSA gave me, this is Tayyum, National SSA gave me the DDS office number that my claim went to. Awesome. I called and there was a clerk who gave me my status updates. Okay. How long ago do you have any idea when it left the field office? Because once it leaves the field office, that's when they know that you have all the parts to an application necessary to then send it off for the government to expend the money for the medical workup. And that's when it sits in a holding pattern if it doesn't get assigned right away. So I wonder if, wait, who was the one that told me to return my application to mail me the functional? Oh, well, you're on pre-development, right? That's perfect. Yeah, I could see that being where they pre-develop it before it's even, why not use that time while you're waiting for an adjudicator? And I bet you once you get everything in that the pre-development person requests, I wouldn't be surprised if they have an adjudicator for you already. things are starting to move. Still not great, but it's way better than a year ago. It's like night and day. Where am I? Where am I? Justin Zane. Here we go. When you file for your clients that are VA 100% service connected, do you state that on the application? Yes, and it's in my cover letter, actually. I do it even separately from the application. I think all it does for the application is puts it earlier in the yes, that's exactly what it does. Puts it in faster. I have a my cover letter for my sending in my rep documents when we are either jumping into a case or we are just submitted the application and then we can send our stuff in at that time. I have like fields where I click off what I'm sending, and I actually have a whole field that says check mark for if it's a 100% VA P&T, just because I have so many of them, and that way it cannot really be forgotten, you know. So it goes in with the information in the beginning. I will say the application doesn't have a spot where they ask for it, if I recall. So that's why we do it that way. You would think they would, right? Hello, does the Appeals Council do SSDI quality reviews? This is Vanessa. Does the Appeals Council do SSDI quality reviews for or with the ALJ? Thank you for your assistance. Quality reviews. The Appeals Council can sua sponte, I believe, which means on their own accord, without anybody asking them, review an ALJ decision. They're not going to do it with the ALJ, as far as I know. After he's issued a decision, a formal decision, the claimant can appeal it to the Appeals Council, or the Appeals Council can sua sponte. That might be part of that auditing process. Review it themselves. I don't know if they're the ones that do it randomly, because then we have federal quality review too, which I don't think is the same thing. It's slightly different. Laura says, hi, beautiful bird. Yes, she is. She's talking about you. Why don't you at least face forward? Thank you. I'm quite new to SSDI. I get the lowest amount. How do I know if I should be withholding tax? Thanks, bunches. No, I'm not a tax professional, but if the only income you have between you and any spouse you have is under that combined income of, let's say it's just you, $25,000, which if you are at the lowest SSDI possible, you are probably beneath that. And because they only count half of the Social Security as part of the combined income, so that means really your amount could be way higher and you're still under the combined, you probably won't need to do withholding, is my guess. If you have other income, investment income, annuities, you know, anything else that could change that, then that would be different. But if it's just you and, you know, you don't have all this other income coming into the house, I don't think you'll probably have a problem. But, you know, you will find out your first year. So, and it's not going to be a huge amount. If you had back benefits of magnitude, that can change it, obviously. Angela Eaton says, love hearing and seeing the sweet animals, birds, turtle. Oh, great. Oh, Angela, I don't recall you piping in before. Are you related to a Ben or a Kate by chance? Love hearing and seeing. Yeah, they're really sweet. And this one is super sweet. And she's like our newest, and she has her vet appointment tomorrow for her toenail clipping. I can't wait. I can't even stand to look at them. It just like tweaks me. It claws at me. Get it? Haha. No pun intended. Pun intended. Celebrity Blogs Incorporated says, can you tell me what the Step 3 fully blue box, never heard of fully blue box, means on the SSA tracker? Don't know what you mean by tracker. I applied for SSDI. If you're talking about your own personal little SSA account that they show to claimants, nah, because most of that stuff is gibberish and it's nonsensical and it's not accurate. So don't even go there. But Step 3, if you're in adjudication right now and they're working up, getting your medical records, sending you function report, sending you work history report, that means you're at the step 3 of the sequential evaluation process. We have videos on what the sequential evaluation process is. There is actually a playlist, I think, and I have them kind of broken out. So you can go take a look if you would like. It's starting to get a little warm in here. I should have had the fan on. Paper Roses says, don't live in senior apartments. Oh, don't live in senior apartments. Residents have nothing better to do than call false reports. Obviously, seniors are on SS payments. I don't think so. Others have moved because nature of senior communities. I would really like to not think that most seniors are liars, cheaters, and stealers. And I would also like to think they would particularly not be if they're on Social Security themselves, because people in glass houses, right? I don't think they're more evil than other people. They could have mental diminishment more than other people. That's certainly true. So, but I certainly wouldn't say they have nothing better to do. Come on, paper. That's not nice. There's so much we can do when we're seniors living in a senior place. I hope to be a senior one day. I mean, technically I am a senior. I know, just not old enough to retire. Hi, Maeve. Maeve says, pretty and quiet, a rare bird. Yeah, she's like sleeping. I think that's her age, Maeve. She's 31, and I don't know what that is in people years. So she's at least middle-aged or older, right? I think she's a senior. And, you know, we seniors need our rest. Deb Lindley said, hi, Deb. Oh, the chronic illness diaries. Huh. Wow, $10. Thank you. I don't think we met. I'm going to read this, okay? I appreciate that. That's super, super nice. Approved for SSD. I just got a long form CDR. Approved for SSD. Long form. First time in 6 years. Doctors don't take good notes at all. Yeah, tell me about it. That's always my big complaint. I'm like a whiner baby about it. If you ever listen to me on a lot of videos, chronic. They spend 15 minutes with me. Yeah. Can you advise how to get my symptoms into my medical records? Do you have if you are in a network portal and there's messaging, those messages can have attachments that you can attach things. Some of these portals, like I think MyChart, Epic, which I've said this before, I'm not tooting their horn, but I think they're the gold standard, but they are a little tarnished and they need to work on a few things. But some of the other smaller ones, I cringe when I see that that's the portal for my client. But you can submit that way. Now, I can't confirm necessarily that they do come out when they. In fact, I think I'm gonna have to experiment here, because sometimes you can like do little tests on some portals. So, I think I will see if you send up let's say you sent up a list of symptoms. Pardon me, I'm just trying to move my chair, and you attach it to the portal. Sure, not running over a turtle. No, okay. And you attach it to the portal or whatever in a message, say, here's my symptoms right now. These are the things I want to touch on when we next meet. I want to discuss this with a doctor. Now, you might want to be willing to use a PA or a nurse practitioner. I'm going tangentially here, guys, but you know, sometimes it's the doctors that do give the least attention, and sometimes it's the PAs and the nurse practitioners who are now considered acceptable sources with the SSA. It doesn't just have to be the MD, as long as they're under the auspices of, and you might get a little bit more attention. You know, I talk about journals sometimes, journaling migraine frequency, and, you know, how many days a month, if it's marked in a calendar showing which days, when you did it in real time, like as soon as the migraine was over, checked off that when it's bedridden, not when you just have a headache and you're assuming it's a migraine or whatever. So I kind of think periodically those should be uploaded to the neurologist that treats you for the migraine, so they can have, not because they're not necessarily going to know how frequent yours are from your discussions, but because that printout will also then go into the medical records that the adjudicator sees, in particular a judge, because I don't know that the lower ones are going to pay as much attention to it. If you don't have a portal in which to send that, and by the way, it'll be curious. I do have to do some testing on this. I just got to carve out the time to do it. I got to submit something, and then I'm going to go portal record, download my records, and also order them officially and see, do they show up? They probably won't show up in the portal records as downloaded, because I know certain things don't show up that way. But I do know you can go and print your things yourself, and hopefully it'll come out in the under the network header and stuff like that. If you don't have a portal, what about faxing in to them what you want them to have and say, this is a communication for my medical provider. Please make sure to put this in my file because we're going to need to discuss this at my next visit. Always use honey, not vinegar, blah, blah. So you don't have to be as cold and as aloof as I was when I just said that. But that's the general gist of it. And then when you order your records, if you order them, or if you have, the SSA order them, or your attorney's going to order them, whatever, see if they're in there. And if they're not, then I would go to the management or the office and say, I had some communications with the doctor that are not in here. And I think that's a violation. So I need to know what happened to them. And are you going to put them in? Because not that I reviewed the AMA or the medical requirements for doctors. I don't know all the rules that make them competent or committing malpractice or whatever, but I'd have to think if they completely shut their ears to their patients' complaints, that would be a major form of malpractice. Whether or not it results in damages or not, it's a malpractice form of practicing. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, you do want to get them in, and I totally get your problem and your frustration because it's rampant. It's rampant. And so maybe try it, and then you have to go and take the extra steps to see if they're in there. Again, portal records are not going to be as thorough as the official record set. For some of our purposes, they're more than fine because the official record set doesn't give us anything more of relevance. However, if it doesn't include the messaging, then that can be a problem if the messaging is relevant like that. So hope that helps, Chronic. I know it's the medical profession, they need to step up their game. They've gotten really, really bad in the last few decades, and in terms of patient handling. I'm just skipping through some, personal interactions between you guys. So, but keep them up. That's what it's there for. Just to continue on, Chronic says she also sees a neurologist. When I look at my medical records, many of them just say things like increased hydrocortisone to 30 milligrams. Please send help. Yeah. So you're saying under like the reason for the visit, it doesn't say like patient is complaining of pain in her hip or whatever, or she's here for migraines. I mean, a lot of the good migraine specialists will say, we'll ask, how many migraines have you been having a month since I last saw you? And then the person gives them their estimate. And, it can be compared to the previous 6 months when they last updated that. And then you have your real incompetent medical providers who it's all about just like writing a script and nothing about really doing the things they need to do so that your medical records are available for you for all of your medical needs, not just the ones that pay them their salary. Yeah, can you see that ticks me off? It does. It does. Chronic goes on to say that her endocrinologist does a decent job, but she's the only one. The others don't document well, and they won't when you've had the same issue for 10 years. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, this is another thing. We're talking about like holding people accountable for what they're not doing when it's personally affecting the livelihoods of so many people who are disabled and or people who are not disabled but need to get well and live a life, right? And that's what we're paying them for. And it's funny because isn't that our biggest bill in life is healthcare? It just drives me crazy. So I don't know whether, is it something that can be reported? I mean, when lawyers screw up, when they don't communicate well with their, they're just not responsive to clients' questions or whatever. I mean, this was back in Jersey when I did Jersey work. It never happened to me because I'm a chatterbox and I message back. But well, I think I always knew from my bar that the most frequent complaint to the ethics, on ethics, is the attorney's lack of communication. So if that is something that can get an attorney, I assume, with enough complaints, censored, reprimanded, scolded, would it rise to disbarring? I don't know that. But nonetheless, you could be suspended. You could be paying a fine to your bar. It's like it's your livelihood. So does the medical licensing boards, just the flip side of it on the medical side, do they have that? I would assume they have a complaint form. And what I would do first, though, before I just go right to them, is I would communicate with the company, and say, I mean, if you communicate about the doctor, you're going to probably make bad blood. But you have to maybe make sure you have another doctor in the wings to take over, whether you're leaving that network or not, unfortunately. If you, and just say, like, the providers are not documenting my complaints, my symptoms on a per visit basis, or I send my symptoms to be discussed at my appointment, as is my choice, in advance, and they're not showing up in the medical record, and the doctor knows nothing about it, and blah, blah, blah. And or the things that I talk about in my doctor appointment are not showing up in the record. It's like I never said them at all. It's like my hip is perfectly fine. And if we communicate that, is there I don't know, is there a complaint system in the medical industry? Some of you are medical industry people, right? Do you know the answer? If you do, feel free to share. Because we're just the victims and sit there and we cry about it. And I'm guilty of this myself, guys. We're just asking for more of the same because it's profitable for them to put in less time than more time. The less they do, the more they make. Get to keep of that dollar and that time that they have that we pay them. Let's see. Just scrolling down, getting out of the personal conversations here. Tayyum is in California and is an SSDI claimant. Chronic says, it is really terrible problem here, and I think this is the poor recording. I have videos on this, Chronic, because this has been my pet peeve for 20 years. I even did an article, gosh, this is like at least 10 years ago, for, it was requested by the American Justice Institute or something. It's something, I'm not even a member. But so I did an article for them. And this is the topic I chose because it was in my field and I saw how badly it hurts disabled people in every other, not just for their treatment. That's bad enough. That's like the obvious. But when you don't have documentation, you can't get your LTD insurance to win when you're disabled under those policies, your SSD, SSI. I have had a client living under a bridge, mental health client, because the mental health facility that treated him, it was like a Medicaid paid for, overworked, understaffed, underpaid. They provide therapists and counseling and all that kind of stuff. And it was local here. And they wouldn't even give up the records. The receptionist said, tries to tell me what the law was. It's so funny. I want to be like, little girl, go home. Saying, oh, we're not allowed to give those out. Like the patient's records, the patient can't have those. Or, I go, you're incorrect. I go, if you have a HIPAA form, not only are you required to send everything but the psychotherapy notes out, everything, medical status exam, start time, end time, who it was with, what were the diagnoses, what was the treatment, therapies, blah, blah, blah. I said, but you also have the total power to send the psychotherapy notes. You just have the power not to, which might keep people living under bridges. And that is what happened. And then the person moved to another state, and then we got them completed over in that other state. But you want to talk about frustration and disgust. I mean, this guy was remaining homeless because he had no, and I can't remember if it was SSI. I think it might have been SSI. I don't know if he was still insured. He had been a worker in his time, and then, something happens and then we're not. Paper Roses says, call the national number. That would be that 1-800-772-1213, if anybody needs it, and confirm that SS received the online CDR. So you submitted your report for the CDR that they'd asked you to submit, got confirmation emails and signature email copy. Perfect. Good. Justin says, my attorney is the best. Well, I am glad. That's awesome. And I'm assuming it's not me. Deb says, I honestly don't know how you force a doctor of any type to, she's talking to chronic, but this is a good point. A doctor of any type to document more than what they do. I don't think you can force them either, but you can file complaints. The blowback could be they drop you as a patient. Totally true. Totally. That's why I was saying, have your other doctor lined up. Maybe make sure you're already in with the other doctor before you make the complaint. I do have concerns about retaliation. I do have concerns about, do doctors share this information? It is a tough world out there. And I don't put it past people, unfortunately. So Deb Lindley shares some really good things. So I'd say if you can, in any way, shape, or form, use honey to get what you want. Try the way we're talking about attaching what you want to say to a message in the portal as an attachment, putting it right in the message. If they don't seem to be keeping those attachments, faxing it in, maybe doing it all three ways. I know with portals, there are laws, big major laws about them altering what's in a portal. There's an auditing trail. I think this comes down to, I think this might be under HIPAA now. So I think they will tread cautiously about fudging, which they've done in the past, portal records. And it would be easy to catch them because if you've printed out your portal records on, 2023, and you print them out the same full set plus new, maybe 2025, and the 2023s have things taken out of them, there's something up there. Zara says, love your bird company. Yeah, she's kind of hanging out, being mellow. At least she's not attacking my screen. That was the first time she's done that. I was not happy. And she was not happy with me telling her not to do it. Right? Right, Tasha? Yeah. Oh. I'm your attorney, but that's not, I don't know that name, Justin. You're being tricky. But I agree with you. You probably have the best time. Just kidding. Where's the other bird? You mean the little bird? They are out there. You really can't have birds together. They tend to fight. But we did make up this perch about a week ago. And the little birds can be on here too. I just haven't done it yet. But that's on my list next. I just think because she's new, I was trying to give her extra attention and bond with her. She's going to be a little bit manhandled tomorrow because she's going to that appointment for her nails clipped. I got to stick her in a small carry cage. I think I'll have to put a little blankie down. I don't know. Because with her feet, I don't know. Paper Roses says, depending on the state, as far as taxes, some states don't require SSA recipients to file taxes. The states all differ. we're talking only about federal withholding paper. The federal has its one rule. All of our states have different rules. Some states don't tax on Social Security, and I think some states do. So that's probably why seniors move to the states that don't. Makes sense? Keep more of your money in your own pocket. But all something to think about, particularly when we become disabled or retired. I'm looking at that stuff now. I mean, it looks like I'm going to be retiring in Pennsylvania, only because we'll be working. Well, my husband will be working there, and he's a few years younger than me. So, you know, we'll probably be out towards that way in a couple years. And I kind of want it to be my last house. I want it to be one floor ranch, right, guys? No stairs, please. I could do stairs now, but there might probably be a time when I'm not going to be wanting to do that. Zara says, please do bird videos. What kind of bird videos, Zara? Please clarify. Oh, RB says I skipped a question. RB, I would never do that on purpose. Let me find you. And I am sitting kind of far away from my screen so I could be near this one. Because it was hard to get her in the camera to believe the way the thing has to be. RB, I don't see your question. Are you down lower? No, because that would make no sense. I do not see. I apologize, but I don't see it. I didn't go all the way to the top. Were you here early? Let me go down. But I will answer your question if you pop it up. I promise. And we don't have that many in front of you, so. Lulu says, my nose. Would you please mention or repeat a typical average response time frame to expect file copy to email or my to hand deliver and completed? I don't have one. I would be surprised if I would be happy if something's in less than a month. Not Lulu. She's talking about the 3288, guys. That is the form when you want to request a copy of your file because you don't have an attorney or a rep that can go in and grab it for you if a pending claim, from their e-file access. So you can send the 3288 to your local field office, and they are obligated to send you a copy of your file as you've described in the form. Sorry, guys. It's like I have a itchy runny nose, but it's not like, I think it's allergy. My cold is gone. So how long, sometimes you have to send it numerous times. I would send it and I would follow up and see who got it and say, listen, I sent this in and I need it right away. And maybe be the squeaky wheel with honey, not vinegar. Because I think things like that do get put to the wayside. I don't know, it'd be nice if they had one person who was supposed to do it, get someone in that office that does that or somewhere, because everything's technology oriented. They could do a lot of things. I just don't see them doing it. Maybe they will. Maybe that's one of the things on the horizon of making things better. I mean, they have been moving along quite nicely with that. Deb is confirming that she doesn't see anything from RB. She scrolled back up and didn't see anything from you too. Yeah, I think maybe didn't click it. I don't know. Chronic. I assume that's the $10 from before. And again, I want to thank you very much. That is very nice and generous, and it's working. We got Susie B. Hi, Susie B. I don't know that we met. Susie says, my orthopedic doctor for my workers' comp case refused to document the severity of my injuries unless I had surgery with his group. Do you have that in writing? Wow. Unless they can make money from you. Yes, I would agree. That is disgusting behavior. Did he put that? I mean, you would think a guy would encourage you to get even a second opinion, in which case, I mean, you have to go. Now, that's the workers' comp doctor, Susie B., and not actually your doctor, because honestly, there's a difference. Is it the one that the workers' comp people are paying, not you? Presumably, because workers' comp is in charge of paying for all that. I would report him to the workers' comp carrier. He's not going to be your doctor forever. So this is not the same as what I think it was me and Deb were talking about before in terms of the retaliation. Can he retaliate? Yes. He's going to say you're fitter than you are and screw you with your workers' comp. I mean, it is terrible. And you're right. It's disgusting behavior. I would love it if he said in his paperwork to you, I mean, if you message him, he said that to your face, right? If you message him and through the portal, I don't know how you guys have it, and say, "Dear Dr. So-and-so, I need to discuss the severity of my injuries with my spouse, mate, whatever, primary care, so we can discuss how we're going to approach the surgery. So can you please provide me comprehensive notes on that, leading you to recommend surgery?" Because you have to discuss it with people, right? I mean, you have to discuss it with your family. There's a lot of things you need to do. And also, that is one thing, and see what he says and do it in writing. And how can they have you have surgery? I mean, what if they give you that you're going to have to describe it all, and then you go ahead and cancel the surgery? If you don't want it after you get it. I just don't understand how we could even do that. You know, I would be tempted to report it. Do you have a workers' comp attorney? I hope. I would talk to him about it and be like, this is egregious. That's egregious. Agree, everybody? Nuts. That's crazy. Virginia Gomez, hi, is in the house. Just wanted to say hi. Missed you last week. Oh, yeah. May God bless you. Have a great one. Thank you. I could use all those blessings. I'm sure we all can, right? Debbie's so on cue here. Deb, I mean, please consider liking and sharing this video so more people can receive this valuable free information. Yeah, like, subscribe, and share. Susie B says, thankfully found a more competent doctor help me with SSD and WC. Awesome. You know, it is just unbelievable. Like if a surgeon is worth his weight in gold like he thinks he is, he does not need to force people into surgery. It's just like, wow. Or surgery with his group. It's like, if I can't have you, nobody can. And I'm going to also take away your insurance and your Social Security. What? Dustin. Hey, Dustin. Have we met? I think we have. Maybe not. Is a therapist write-up detailing work limitations? Is a therapist write-up enough to win appeal at reconsideration for mental health? Not necessarily. It depends how credible he is. It depends how much his records support what he now says when he writes it up, or were they like so not saying it before and suddenly he's saying it now? You can give some implications with that. Is what he says, is it inconsistent with not just his own prior records, but any other providing records? Is it inconsistent with the consultative exam, which should not be the strongest point? However, it's still someone who examined you. There's no way to know if that's enough. So you have to always just keep trying. I say it this way. There is never a known enough, because it is impossible to have a 100% surefire case. There's too many wild cards. And you don't know what that other person is going to be demanding, who's going to make the ultimate decision, adjudication. And my clients, know that I'm a big nag about this. I'm like, you need all the crumbs you can get to build that cake. I'm going to tell you all the best crumbs. I'm going to tell you the crumbs that are available. I can't make you do it, but I will tell you that, everything you do, one more step away from the 100%. You can never meet it, but you don't want to be down here. You want to be as close to it as possible. That said, not everything is always possible. That would be ideal. So in the end, it's always the client who's the patient and who's the claimant who makes the decision, because that's the person who has to live with the end result the most. Yeah, we might have a losing case and I don't get paid, but that's not me living without benefits for the rest of my life. and potentially being on welfare, or otherwise dependent on others. Deb says, great, a bird with undiagnosed ODD. ODD? Hey, what is that? Oh, oppositional defiance disorder, right? She's talking about you. Yeah. ODD? Tasha? Say hello. Hello. That's a turtle. That's not a hello. Tayyum says the National Center, that's the 1-800 number, said there is a 1-year ticker on their end for an initial decision. They've gotten really desperate, huh? Hopefully I'll get sooner. I walk into local office to submit docs because they print a barcode cover. Well, good for you. Then what do they do with it? Does the barcode cover give you a fax number so you can take the barcode cover, put it on top, and then fax it? Or are you just relying on them to do it? Maybe it's working. You could have a good office. I mean, some of them are really good, and some of the workers are excellent. And then you have the ones that aren't. It's like anything, though. You know, lawyers, claimants. we have our goods and we have our less so goods, right? Yeah, you heard it. You got it. Chronic says, I donated an extra $10 since you took the time to fully answer my question. Thank you. In the future, I will print off symptoms, update. Yeah, do what you can. And let me know how that works out. I'm curious because maybe we don't know. And once we start doing it, you find that they start coming on board and, you know, they just don't do it because we don't do it. I don't know. Aunt Scary Sherry's in the house. Nice to see you. I was in recon for 12 months. Yeah, now they moved me back to non-medical. Usually that's after they made a determination. I was there for at least 9 months. Do you know how long I will be there for? Were you on recon for 12 and then 9 months in non-medical? Is that what you're saying? So 12 plus 9 is, what is that? 21 months? I don't think that's what you're saying. No, but you know, you can always call and follow up with the field office occasionally, because if you're in non-medical, you're not in the medical office, which is the DDS. Paper Rose says, at what point does someone need to retain a lawyer after a CDR, or during a CDR? How many days to respond to a denial? Yeah, look at your letter. It's probably 60 days, but double check. I would have your CDR lawyer at least find ones that do it lined up now. A lot of people don't do them. And one of the reasons is, we've talked about this before, guys. You will presumably, if you get denied under CDR and they say we're ceasing your benefits unless you, within 10 days, this is the 10-day limit. Within 10 days, you need to tell us you want to continue your benefits being paid to you pending your appeal. Yeah. And you have to get that in fast. And the 10 days is insufficient because mail is so sometimes you don't get it till after 10 days. So you really, really need to stay on top of it. And that is one thing I always tell my people, never go down to the Social Security office in person. But this is a time when you might have to do that and bring 2 copies of that request to keep your benefits continuing, have them stamp one as received so you have proof that you filed it with them, and then give them the other one for their filing. You could also, I would do triple whammy. You could fax it as well. So you have the fax confirm. If you can't get in there, you need to overnight it. It costs money. It's not cheap. But what are you going to do? You need to do this, unless you have someone who could drop it off for you, I suppose. But anyway, that's when you need to have your benefits to stay alive pending the appeal, if you need to. If you do that, you're probably not going to be able to get a CDR attorney unless you can come up with a multi-$1,000 retainer, because there will be no way for that person to get paid with the back benefits that would accumulate, because you're not going to have any back benefits accumulating during the whole fight. So you see what the problem is. It's a practical problem. And it's the whole, most people want to continue their benefits, and then they have nothing to contingently have paid to the attorney, and no attorney is going to very few are just going to go with it and presume you're going to be paying them when you're still tight on money later. So that's one of those dilemmas. And then a lot of people don't do CDRs to begin with. I had always done them. Now I just pretty much say I don't do them. And I would be one requiring that retainer too, because it's just not the thing. It's not the thing we're going to put our pro bono time into when we have people who haven't gotten there to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was very kind, Chronic. You've been very generous, and it's my pleasure answering the questions. I love Wednesdays. Everybody knows I love Wednesdays. Deb is saying that she turned 61 on Sunday. Happy belated birthday, Deb. I'm just a few years behind you, and I'm already forgetting more. Left out subscribe. We all forget little things like we did when we were younger. That is for sure. Oh, you guys are having a nice little interaction there. I love it. Chronic says she'll definitely keep us posted on how it goes. Yeah, I'm dying to see. And maybe we should all consider starting to test those waters about sending in things and seeing if they show up in our portal records, and also whether they show up in our official record set. If they don't show up in the portal, it would be good to know. It would be good for everybody to know. So, and everybody's doctors might be different. Everyone's portals might be different, but it's something everybody can do, you know, to find out their individual situation, because everything's going to vary individually. And Scary Sherry says, I was in non-medical for 9 months, then in recon for a year. Now back to non-medical, no CTE either. You mean CE, consultative exam. Interesting. What does your lawyer say about that, Sherry? That's something weird. Have you looked into it? That's too long. That's too long. Are you sure you even have an open case? What is your SSA? I'm assuming you're getting this from your SSA online account. Maybe you should, with honey, not vinegar, call your local field office and just say, can you just track me where this is? Because you know you're not with the DDS anymore in recon. You're back to non-medical. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers for you that this is like it. Now it's like a ward. You say that you were in non-medical for 9 months and then in recon. So you appealed initial, and you're saying it didn't get into recon for 9 months, but that's not really how that works. So I'm not sure about that. It could be you were sitting in recon without an adjudicator. That's not non-medical. That's just waiting for, you're in medical, but you don't have someone actually working it up yet because of the staffing. You know what I mean? So not sure about that language there, Sherry. Tayyum says the local office will scan my documents with the barcode cover, and it will go straight to my claims electronic folder. Do they scan it while you're sitting right there, Tayyum, or do they just collect it from you and say we're going to do this? Just wondering. Do you know also, Tayyum, that you can upload your evidence directly to through your SSA account now? You don't have to go to the field office, and then you can see it there. You can't see what they put in, but you can see what you put in. When I say they, I mean the adjudicator, what she ordered, received, and put in. I don't think you guys can see that. We can see that. You can't see that. But you can see what you put in. So if you have it on your computer, in your device, and you upload it to them, you can see that it was uploaded to them. I am not sure. I'd be curious to know if you go to your field office, get that barcode, and your field office uploads it with the barcode. Can you see it in your SSA account, or will that be as visible to you like it is when the adjudicator does it? Inquiring minds want to know. Mine only, but. All right, guys, I think we're good. We have all the questions gone. We're almost at 2 hours. We're like 10 minutes shy of 2 hours. I got Sleepy Birdie here. Right, Tosh? Tasha! Is her other eye open? No. Both of them are closed. She's tired. See, she takes her little nappies. She's so cute. Yeah, so I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. I'm going to try to get this, if YouTube can process this timely. They didn't do it that 1 week. It was like days and days. It didn't go out to the next week. But what it is, the replay, cutting out all of the silliness. You're welcome, guys. Thanks, AF Vet. Nice to see you. It'll get up there. Ideally, I get it up Thursdays, but I only do it if it's possible. Otherwise, I put something else there. But you're welcome, Paper Roses. It was very nice to meet you. And Deb, good to see you always. Please always show up. You must. And you're so helpful to everybody. You really are. All right, guys. I'm going to call it a day. As you know, 12 o'clock, daily videos come out. And Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today is the live stream. So that is the schedule for the foreseeable future. And I will talk to y'all soon. Have a good one. Bye. Say goodbye, Tosh. She's not waking up.